If you've gone through an IVF retrieval and heard, "I'm so sorry, we did not get any eggs," despite having good-looking follicles and hormone levels ahead of time, you may have experienced something called empty follicle syndrome. I'm Dr. Jessica Reinick, a double board certified OBGYN and reproductive endocrinology and infertility specialist, or a fertility doctor, and I wanted to talk about empty follicle syndrome. Going through IVF, anticipating your egg retrieval outcomes, and then finding out that you're back to square one because we didn't get any eggs is rare, but it's always devastating. I want to start by saying that this is specifically considered when we have mature-looking follicles, so over around 15 millimeters on the day of trigger, with normal appearing hormone levels, so no signs of breakthrough ovulation, going forward with the trigger shot and the retrieval, and not getting any eggs. And this is important because not getting eggs from small follicles is expected, but not getting eggs from mature appearing follicles when you haven't been concerned that you may have ovulated is unexpected. When this happens, we can think about two main things. The first revolves completely around the trigger shot. During follicular development, the egg is there, but it's tightly bound to the wall of the follicle. And in order to be able to retrieve it with egg retrieval, it needs to release into the fluid. It also needs to become a mature egg, and the trigger shot is what does all of that. The trigger shot is used to mimic the LH surge that would happen in a normal ovulatory cycle so that the egg releases. So if the trigger shot didn't work for whatever reason, you're not going to get any eggs. This can be due to error in giving the trigger shot. It can be due to your body not properly absorbing it, a low dose of the trigger shot. It can be related to your response to the trigger shot, or maybe there just wasn't a long enough time between the trigger shot and the retrieval. The other kind of empty follicle syndrome is more rare, and it's unfortunately poorly understood. There are a few different ideas behind why this might happen. The egg maybe does not detach from the wall of the follicle despite having an adequate trigger shot and length of time between the trigger and the retrieval, or something could happen along the phases of egg development that leads to degeneration of the egg before getting to the retrieval. To figure out what kind of empty follicle syndrome you're experiencing, the best thing to do is to check labs on the day of the retrieval to see if you have adequate levels of the trigger shot medication in your body or not. If your trigger shot hormone levels are low, then that means most likely you just did not respond to the trigger shot. If you check the repeat labs and it looks like you did respond to the trigger, this is a more difficult problem. There are still things that we can do, but it's generally more related to poor ovarian reserve and poor egg quality, which can be trickier to tackle. Some of the things we can do with the next cycle in order to avoid this happening again would be increasing the dose of the HCG trigger or waiting a longer period of time between the trigger and the retrieval. We can also do a dual trigger with HCG and Lupron if this wasn't done before. Even if the trigger shot was thought to be less of a problem in this situation, so you did respond to the trigger but still didn't get any eggs, these changes could be beneficial for a following cycle. You could also think about changing up the protocol altogether or doing things to aim to improve your egg quality. Empty follicle syndrome is usually a one-time event, and so if you do another cycle, there's usually things that we can do to adjust the outcome, and most people do get eggs in the next cycle. The most important thing to know that if this happened to you, it is not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong, and let's use the information from this cycle to dive into the next one and have a better outcome.